Hi everyone! So in today's video, I want to share with you an experiment that I did back in June of this year. And this experiment was about cutting out sugar and reducing carbs. And I did that not because I wanted to lose weight, but because I wanted to transform my relationship with food and emotions. And so this experiment was less about dieting and more about breaking free from emotional eating, understanding my cravings, and learning to nourish myself in a more conscious and intuitive way. So emotional eating is when we use food, especially comfort foods like sugar and carbs, to cope with emotion. And it's actually something very common. Research shows that about 75% of overeating is driven by emotion rather than physical hunger. And here's how it works. Maybe you will recognize yourself in it. So you start to feel an emotion. It could be stress, boredom, loneliness, overwhelm. And so you reach for sugar or refined carbs to feel better. And this gives you a quick hit of pleasure. And so what happens is that your blood sugar spikes, and so you feel a rush of energy or a relief. But then it crashes, and when it crashes, it comes with fatigue, mood swings, and even more emotional discomfort. And that discomfort triggers another craving. So you reach for more sugar or refined carbs, and the loop begins again. And so over time, this pattern creates imbalance both physically and also emotionally. And it disconnects us from the body's true signals. And this can leave us feeling stuck, frustrated, and guilty for turning to food. And personally, I've often found myself in this situation, like reaching for chocolate or crackers or anything carbs to find comfort. And this came back very strongly for me this year, where I spent a lot of time, especially at the beginning of the year, in my head instead of my body. And I feel that this video is also going to be for the people who tend to overthink a lot. Because emotional eating for me was just a response that I found to feel more comfortable when I was facing anxiety. So my goal was to lower my blood sugar naturally, to stabilize my mood and reconnect with my body. And I wanted to do that not through control or restriction, but through awareness and nourishment. And I wanted to feel more grounded, peaceful, clear, more light in my body and my mind. And so this video documents everything from the first step that I took to the cravings, to the emotional moments I went through, the practices that I have implemented to support me, the tools that I found, and everything that I've discovered along the way. And my intention with this video is to empower you to become more aware of the moments when you reach for food out of emotion rather than pleasure or hunger, and to offer you compassionate tools and alternatives to help you respond differently. So my initial plan was to cut out sugar for 30 days and reduce my intake of refined carbohydrates. And so the goal behind this was to regulate my blood sugar levels, my mood, my energy, and bring more awareness to the moments when I reached for sugar or carbs for comfort or stimulation. I really wanted to do a reset. And so the first step that I took was to ask ChatGPT to generate a glycemic index list of 50 fruits and vegetables so I could choose the ones with the lowest sugar content and avoid spikes in blood sugar. And so I went to the supermarket and I bought some vegetables. I also included some sweet potatoes, which are known to help regulate blood sugar and reduce cravings. And my mindset was to choose foods that will nourish me and help me feel full, so I wouldn't end up turning to sugar for that sense of comfort. I also thought that I could buy some of the things that I usually buy, and I really thought that what I was buying before was pretty healthy. But once I started to read the labels, this was my favorite tomato salsa, and it's full of sugar. It's like 7 grams of sugar and 2 grams of added sugar. Actually, most of this tomato salsa have sugar and added sugar. Goodbye, pasta. No one will take my manchego. I'm very happy I'm not doing a dairy-free diet. And sometimes I'm just asking myself, like, what would you add like sugar in bread? Like, what's the point? I really don't understand that. I was like, wow, sugar is everywhere, definitely. And that alone made me more mindful, and it kind of shifted my whole approach to eating. And the thing is that if we don't read the labels, we are condemned to eat sugar every day, and sugar attracts more sugar. Your body and your brain get used to that constant stimulation, and it really becomes an addiction. So I decided to be more mindful with sugar and go for fruit instead of processed sweets, and I intended to be also intentional about which fruit I choose. So I really focus on the ones with a low glycemic index like apples, berries, and apricots. So I did that for the 30 days, making sure I was eating the fruit after eating some proteins to avoid blood sugar spikes and keep my energy more stable throughout the day. And while I was succeeding in quitting sugar and reducing carbs, other forms of addiction started to show up in my life. So it's day one, and I already went for a cappuccino with coconut milk and sugar-free vanilla. So I know it's not ideal because anything that is like sugar-free or artificial sugar actually makes you crave more sugar. So don't do that. I did that. I did that because that's the best I could do in this moment. And I will rather prefer to go for something like this than, eating cake or chocolate, which I would have done in the past. So today's update is that I'm realizing that yes, I quit sugar and I reduce carbs, but I'm going now for more acceptable version. So for example, like I went for a cappuccino, and usually I will take like the tall size. Now I took the venti size, which is like much bigger. It's interesting to notice that, right? To notice that I'm going for more things because I'm looking for replacing sugar. And I'm also eating much more gums. So my friend sent that to me because he knows that those are my favorite gums and they are sugar-free. And so since he sent that to me, like I see myself eating much more of those. And I don't think this is like the solution. I'm noticing that my body is trying to hold on some stimulation and coping tools, so I don't have to feel my emotions. And so that's why I'm going for like coffee that are a lot larger than before. And I also began to feel less energy than before, especially the first week. And I try to compensate with fruits. I've also spent a lot of time in nature, having more contact with trees, with the wind, with the earth elements in general. This really helped me. I've done a lot of grounding and still continue to do that today. I love taking my journal and just go to one of my favorite places and see it and write while being in nature. This really helps me to reconnect with myself. So this is the end of my first week, and this afternoon I felt a little bit sad and a little bit frustrated. And one of the first thoughts that came to my mind was to go to the supermarket and buy one of my favorite cookies. Obviously, I'm not gonna do that. If I tune into the sensations in my body, I can feel like a sensation here around my jaw, but also around my solar plexus. And so what I've done is that I've been feeling my feelings, but still, I still feel like this need for nourishment, right? So I'm going to do some self-massage to bring nourishment and warmth and good energy to my body, and stop the sugar craving that I'm feeling. So I'm going to start by rubbing my hands like this and feeling like the energy, feeling the warmth between my hands. And then I'm going to put my right hand on my chest, heart center, and my left hand on my belly. I'm going to do some circle on the opposite side. And I'm going to focus my intention on the warmth and the energy that I feel, and the nourishment that I'm bringing to my body. And you can do some deep breathing with a sound. Like this. And you can also add a color, the color that you feel is nourishing your body right now. And right now I'm infusing my body with the color green, which is for me the color of the heart, the color of love. And then we want to change the hands, and we're going to do it on the other side. So I did that for a few minutes, and right now I feel more grounded. I feel more centered also, and more nourished, because it's like I wanted to take something outside when I could give it already to myself through the movement that I just did. And so my body is feeling the nourishment. And so as I was paying more and more attention to the way that I was feeling and how my feelings were impacting my desire for food, this is when I started to implement some body practices to bring nourishment and feel more grounded within. And I've also done other practices inspired by Taoism, like the 6 healing sounds that I share also on YouTube. You can watch the video here if you are interested. This is a practice that helps release stuck energy in the organs of the body. So my first 2 weeks experiment was a bit challenging, honestly, because I was changing my habits and becoming more aware of the emotions triggering my cravings. And as women, we also go through hormonal shifts, especially around our periods, and that can affect our emotions and cravings. And right before bleeding, it's normal to feel more sensitive, tired, and to crave sugar or carbs. And it's like our body asking for comfort and nourishment. So right now I'm going to prepare a very nice cacao drink. I like to pour good intentions into the cacao when I make it, and think about the beautiful energy of love. Yummy. So good. Cacao has really become one of my favorite things to drink, especially right before my period. So if you are a woman, I really recommend it before menstruation. It's full of magnesium, and it really helps relax the body and open the heart, calm the nerves. It really also gives this gentle lift in the mood without the crash. And for me, it really helped me feel more grounded and nourished. And when I'm in that sensitive emotional phase before bleeding, it just feels like a warm hug from the inside, and it really satisfies the craving for sweetness that I can have sometimes, but in a very nourishing way. So I've been adjusting, implementing, and trying that what works and what doesn't work for me, but also observing the way that I was feeling with food and how it was impacting my energy. So yesterday was a day full of carbs. I went to the restaurant with some friends and I had pasta for lunch, and I'm sure there was like a lot of sugar in the salsa that I took, the tomato salsa that I took. And then at night I had arepas with my roommate.
Arepa venezolana.
So today I feel bloated, I feel a little bit tired, and yeah, that's the 2 words that I will use to describe my state. And so what I've done is that instead of going for more carbs to give me more energy, I am here in this beautiful park in nature, and I'm gonna do some grounding. And then I'm going to do this nice meditation that I love, which is like a meditation where I close my eyes and I just listen to the sounds of nature. And I love doing this because this calms my nervous system and bring me back to presence. Because I do believe that there is nothing more nourishing than being in contact with nature. So there were a few moments when I was having lunch or dinner with others, and during these times of sharing and conversation, it became like harder for me to control what I was eating. I was having a great time, and there was like this strong feeling of connection and belonging. And I remember that one morning in Peru, we were going to have breakfast, and I was not planning to eat, just have some tea, but there was like bread on the table and everyone was eating, and my reaction was like, hey, like I want to share with you also, guys, like let me have some bread with you. And so an hour later, I felt like super bloated because I'm not used to gluten anymore, and I had like also brain fog. So when it comes to sharing meals with others, we can easily be influenced, but it also works both ways. People eating habits may have the power to impact you, but you can also do the same.
He comprado galletitas sanas para que todo el mundo pueda comer sano, ¿cierto, Magda?
Así es.
¿Te gustó?
Sí, excelente.
¿Y qué pasó a nivel de tu salud gracias a esto?
Me subo de peso.
¿Bajaste?
Sí.
Ya ves, qué bueno, ¿no? Ahora todos podemos tomar decisiones saludables, ¿cierto?
Exacto.
After spending a few weeks with Magda, she changed her habit with bread, and she even lost some weight. So one tool that I really recommend if you want to understand, improve, and regulate your relationship with food and your emotions is the food energy experiment. So what you want to do is create a table and write down the meals that you're having each day for a week. And after each meal, you're gonna rate the way you feel on a scale from 0 to 10. Do you feel bloated, tired? Do you lack energy? Or do you feel light, nourished, and energized? And this is super helpful to measure the impact that food has on your energy and adjust, what feels best for you after that. So halfway through my experiment, I started to stabilize my cravings and became more aware of the emotions triggering them. But if sugar was not showing up consciously in my life, it was still showing up unconsciously. So I woke up like an hour ago, and I dreamt about brioche. I dreamt about French brioche. And I think this is very interesting. And the way that I've interpreted my dream is that I want something sweet. I want something sweet and nourishing in my life. And so then like I woke up and I was thinking about how can I add more sweetness into my life? How can I bring more sweetness into my life? And so I'm going to do a little bit of journaling about that and a little bit of brainstorming and see what comes up. So one of the things that I wrote in my journal was to become more aware of those moments when I was craving sugar or carbs and noticing what am I doing, where am I, and how am I feeling during those moments. And I initially thought that it was going to be only when I was feeling stressed or anxious. But yesterday night I was watching a movie and everything was fine. And suddenly I have this feeling of wanting to eat sugar or just preparing myself something to eat while I was watching TV. And it was very interesting because I ate an hour ago. So I was not feeling hungry, but I was feeling bored. And so because I was feeling bored, I wanted to grab something to avoid this feeling of boredom. And so that was very interesting for me to notice that, because instead of going for something to eat, grab sugar, I just stayed with my feelings of boredom and felt my feelings. And after that, I went to my 5 senses toolbox. So here's my 5 senses toolbox, and I have everything that I need to nourish my senses. So I have some feather and skincare product for the touch. I have essential oils for the smell, a bowl and my headset for the sound, body oil for the touch again, soft massage, and I do have some chai tea for the taste. So this toolbox has really been my biggest ally because it helps me reconnect to my senses. And when we feel stressed or when we feel bored or
whatever emotions like you're feeling in the moment that makes you want to grab sugar or carbs, you tend to dissociate. And so having this five senses toolbox helped me go back to my body and feel grounded, and also calm my nervous system. So yesterday night when I was feeling bored, I just grabbed one of my feather here, and what I do is like I'm gonna just like massage my body with the feather, and it really helps feeling good, feeling great, and just like being the body, like noticing the sensations, being more aware of what's happening here and now. And sometimes I also like to grab my body elixir, and so this one is orange blossom and cedar wood, and I'm just gonna put a few drops on my hands and just like massage part of my body. It could be my upper back, and just feel the sensation, but also smell, because it smells super good. And so this is helping me once again reconnect with the present moment. Something else that I like is doing a chai tea. I love chai tea, and this one gives me like this warm feeling, and it has warm spices, and we can find cinnamon and cloves and ginger, and it really helps regulate the blood sugar and calm the nervous system, and brings you like this warm sensation, right? This softness and sweetness that you want.
And that was really interesting for me to realize that it's just not stress or anxiety that triggers emotional eating, but boredom too. And so I've asked myself, what is boredom really? And I perceived it as a lack of stimulation, a space where nothing is happening. But in our culture, we've been conditioned to do, to achieve, to entertain, to perform. We always have to be doing something. We've been taught that being, just existing, is unproductive. So when that space opens up, it can feel uncomfortable. And that's where the cravings comes in, not just for food, but for something. And something to fill the gap. For me, that something is food. It showed up as eating. Today, I'm talking about food, but when you do this experiment to become more aware of your emotions and triggers, you quickly realize that not only food can come up. Many type of distractions can arise, like scrolling on social media, listening to music or podcast, or watching TV all the time to a point that you're not comfortable with silence anymore. Could be foods, like in my case, alcohol, drugs, etc. Everything can be a distraction to avoid and numb our feelings. So what I get from this is making a pause and asking myself when I feel like going for something to fill this gap, like, can I stay with the silence and my feelings for a while and then decide what I feel like doing, instead of just going for something to fill the gap instantly. I find very helpful to write down the feelings that trigger the cravings and what you would normally go for. So for example, I've noticed that when I feel anxious or stressed, I will go for chocolate or carbs, something that gives me like this sensation of comfort. Same when I feel frustrated, but when I feel bored, I will go for coffee, and in my case, cappuccinos, to feel energized and stimulated. So then you can replace the sweet with something that works for you, and learn to work with your body in that way. What really changed the game for me was just becoming more aware of what I'm feeling and knowing that I have options. And you can't become aware if you don't slow down and put your intention into listening to your emotional needs. So I've been slowing down a lot this past few days, and I've realized that I don't feel this huge need for sugar or carbs anymore, because I slowed down. And I believe that we don't know our body's natural rhythm until we make the decision to slow down and cut sugar or coffee or anything that is going to stimulate our nervous system. And this is when we cut all of this
that we realize that, wow, it's actually much more slower and it's okay. And I don't have to do all the time things to feel stimulated. And this has been, I think, one of the biggest realization of this past 30 days for me. And I think that this is when we are finally in a place where we feel peace, when we slow down, when we removed the sugar, the carbs, all the stimulations that we normally have, that we are finally in a place where we can choose what to eat, but from this place of peacefulness and from this place of intuition. And I think that this is when intuitive eating is interesting to look at.
So one thing that really helped me is taking these little pauses throughout the day, just random moments of silence where I reconnect with my senses. At night, for example, I like to turn on my skylight and put on some calming music. What those moments do is helping you become more aware, relaxed, and grounded. And when I feel like bored, instead of going for food, I will just go to nature, take a walk, or just go lie down on the bed and look at the wall and just tune into my body, feel the sensations. I stay still, I notice what's happening inside and around me. And that's a practice, and just being aware, staying with your emotions. But if you do this practice and choose again and again and again to come back to your body, I swear, you can trust me, it works. You won't feel as anxious as before, and you won't feel like this urge of going for carbs or for chocolate, for something to keep you feel comfortable. It's all about feeling your feelings. And ultimately, I do believe in intuitive eating, which means learning to eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, and choose foods that genuinely feel good to you physically and emotionally. I don't believe in restriction or limitation. I believe in eating in consciousness, like being present with your choices, your feelings before eating, and how the food makes you feel after that. When you're present with your feelings, you start to understand your emotional needs.
So I'm in Peru right now, and it's winter, and I feel a little bit ungrounded and not very centered because I just landed, and I feel this like craving for carbs or something that is going to fool me. But it's very interesting because I made the stop, and I asked myself, like, what am I craving right now? Like, what would nourish me? And so I really thought about getting some veggies to make a soup. So I'm gonna do that. Aww.
So doing this experiment with sugar and refined carbs has been super key for me because it allowed me to be more aware of my cravings, my emotional needs, and choose what is best for me. Meaning, do I want to continue to feed myself with sugar and carbs to avoid feeling my feelings, or can I choose differently and offer myself a more authentic way of living? I also have a very different relationship today that I had before. I really enjoy black chocolate today, and I really used to don't like it before. And I do also have a deeper appreciation for fruit, which is very interesting. I love ice cream, I love chocolate, I love pasta, I love pizza. I have no intention, at least right now, of cutting out this pleasure out of my life. But what I do intend is to stay present with the food that I eat. If I'm going to indulge, I want to do it fully, slowly, mindfully, like just savoring every bite with gratitude, not to numb my feeling, but to truly enjoy the pleasure of eating. I hope this video was helpful for you. Would love to know your insights, your feedback, where you are on your journey. Let's chat together.